Recording in progress.
Oh, by the way, James, we are recording this.
Fair enough.
All right, here we go. Well, good morning, everybody. We've got Pepe Marquez on the tunes behind me. What's going on? His rendition of what's going on. We're going to pop that down and welcome you into 360 Performance on a Friday, every Friday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Have a great guest today, a friend, to talk to you about performance in both literal and metaphorical ways. Because our theme today is the power of movie. The power of movie. That's exciting. I get chills just thinking about the power of movie because I'm a movie guy, and if it weren't for those, I think I'd be crazy because of COVID without movies. It's just I wouldn't have survived. I would have been running the streets naked, flailing my arms and spitting a lot. It just would have been a very bad scene. So today, because of the time frame we have, I'm going to introduce James Mejia very, very quickly. He is the CEO of Denver Film. And also, we're going to talk with James about the Denver Film Festival, number 44, coming up here at the end of the month of October into November. We'll give you the specific dates of that shortly. But as I do every week, James, I ask people to think about gratitude. What are you grateful for? And with today's theme, I'm grateful for my imagination and my curiosity. So, James, what are you grateful for?
Today is the birthday of my youngest daughter. She turns 12. So I am grateful for the influence that my daughters have had in my life.
Well, I have to tell you, without having pictures in front of us for our audience, I'll just confess that they're really charming and beautiful young ladies. And
Thank you.
That doesn't fall from the tree of the mother of those kids. But the seriousness of this, though, is that the power of movies and our gratitude towards all those wonderful images create stories that are captured in the movies. And I know that for myself and James and the conversations we've had over the years, the quote I'm going to share now about our mindset moment will kind of coalesce and begin where we're going to head down the path today in the next 40 plus minutes. And here's the quote. We don't make movies to make more money. We make money to make more movies. And that was said by Walt Disney. And if anybody out there knows the story of Walt Disney, he was not exactly agreed to right off the bat. He had to prove to people the value of storytelling, making movies. And in his day, it was animated, comical kinds of presentations. It wasn't like we have today. So he fought some battles before he got to where he's at and what he left behind for his family and friends and the many, many viewers. So money is on the issue right now. We're coming out of, well, we're still in COVID, but not nearly the impact we've had. So James, my first question for you is about the economics. Do you feel a resurgence? Are we coming out of it?
Well, it's still a difficult time because for two reasons. Number one, movie distribution companies have been holding back films, waiting for COVID to kind of end, and waiting for people to feel more confident coming back to theaters. And that's the other aspect. So people still have a bit of misgiving, but I think we are seeing a lot more confidence in terms of the pace of our ticket sales for our November film festival, that people are increasing in confidence. And I'll tell you one thing that does help is we're requiring vaccinations and we're requiring masks indoors when not actively eating or drinking. So those two factors, I think, add to some confidence. We've taken the time to go through the city's 5-star program, which shows our commitment to taking it to the next level in terms of safety. We've had an independent company come in called Averic to do an air quality monitoring for us. And so we've taken this issue very seriously, and hopefully we've done our part to make people feel more comfortable to come back to the theaters.
Have you gotten feedback, James, on the level and degree of comfort from?
Yes. Empirically, we are seeing people come to us and say, okay, I think I'm ready now. Last year would have been too soon, but I think I'm ready now to come back to the theaters. We've had a couple of sneak previews. People have been very excited to be back in theaters. And our ticket sales, again, that's the real proof. Who's buying tickets? And we are on pace with regard to 2019 levels. So we're feeling very good about where we are this time in terms of ticket sales for Film Festival.
So you've answered one question I had prepared to ask you, which was about that kind of wardrobe change and the challenges that mask wearing presents itself. It sounds like the movie goer is actually looking forward to the safety checks and making sure it's there.
They've really embraced it. And frankly, we have received many emails that have said, thank you. Thank you for making it a safe experience for us. We're excited to be back in the theater. That's a good signal for us. So when people are appreciative of having taken the extra step to keep people safe.
Well, and I hope as a sidebar recommendation that anytime the press interviews you, please reiterate that point so that others out there can listen to the positive messages and experiences you're having with the mechanical side, the operational side of putting butts in seats, man, and watching the movie. Now, you mentioned something earlier about the content that producers were holding back, and which implies that they were still making movies, or at least as much as they could during COVID. So you're answering that other question. There's movies being produced.
Yes.
But who's producing them? Is it, because I'm looking at AMC and others that get sourced, that they're not getting the content as voluminous as it could be.
Yeah, well, most of the films that were held back were ready for last year. So they were actually completed and, maybe even in final production or editing during COVID. So that work could continue. So now that they're ready, the Oscars are back in February, and now there's going to be a deluge. And that's why we're seeing so many great films in our November Film Festival. 4 of our 5 red carpet presentations will have Oscar nominations attached to them.
Nice.
And probably the 5th, we're very intentional about having a Colorado-centric film, which is at that high bar measure as well, and shouldn't be missed either. So, in my opinion, from our wish list of films that we wanted, we've hit them all. And we're 5 for 5 with regard to our red carpet presentations. They'll all sell out, and we'll have talent in for at least 2, if not 3 of them. So a new high water mark for Denver Film this year.
That's outstanding. That's very, very good to hear, especially after remembering what we went through when we couldn't have butts in seats. So,
right.
But with that being said, the COVID also did something else to the creative mind. Because they didn't have the traditional studio access to produce sets, all that kind of thing was limited. It kind of grew this shorts mentality, this quick film mentality, or this collection of B-roll that will eventually turn into a feature. And if you talk to Apple, they think it's the iPhone 13 is the new genre for filmmaking. So I'm wondering, are you reflecting that in the views that you want to show people? Like, I know you've got the VR piece there, you've got the youth film producers, but are we also looking at how technology has influenced the movie production and content category?
It's a very interesting question, and we are seeing not only creativity in how films are made. We're seeing a lot of new technology, virtual reality backdrops, for example, virtual reality scenery. And there's a new upstart filmmaking couple that moved back to Colorado because they believe they can use technology instead of physical sets to create some of their productions. That's the kind of talent with cutting edge technology, maybe leading edge technology, that we want to support, we want to keep at home. So we are seeing evidence of the filmmaking process changing. We're also seeing a change in how films are delivered. When we were unable to be in a physical Film Festival, we pivoted to go virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And what we found was that our audience from outside Denver, but within Colorado, went from 9% to 30%. And so we were reaching people with a virtual platform that we had not reached before. And frankly, that is a tool that we are adding to our toolbox for perpetuity. We will have virtual filming of the 240 films in this year's 233 in this year's festival. 40 of them will be available on our virtual platform, in addition to physical screenings.
So you when you say that, I hear you that escalating, or at least continuing to marry real to virtual distribution, the streaming thing, but there's always that legal thought, the scare of the security of my stream. And I mentioned with kind of tongue-in-cheek the iPhone 13 Pro, but that's a loose cannon out there for distribution people. They're going, wait a minute, how, if that quality is out there and they can do it that quickly, how do we capture that and monetize the distribution of those little shorts, and yet at the same time consider butts in seats?
Right.
How do we do both? So are the distribution channels doing that, and are they helping you put butts in seats?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, or the multi-million-dollar question, I should say, Lowell, because as you know, this is an industry that is in transition.
Yeah.
And last year we saw for the first time major motion pictures going to streaming before it would go to theater, or instead of going to theater, or simultaneously going to theater. And all those different models, the reason you're seeing all those different models is because no one has the formula yet. No one has the formula to say, we're going to capture the most revenue by going entirely virtual. We're going to capture the most revenue by just going to theater, or we're going to have some balance and some time balance of virtual for a while and then theater. That formula has been turned upside down. And the fact that many people realize that the comfort and safety of viewing in their own home means that the virtual platform is not going away for major motion pictures, but the timing of it is still a question. When will that happen? How will it happen? And what's the relationship between distributors and the streaming services as opposed to the distributors and the theaters? And how are they all going to work together? Those are all still open questions, and frankly, there are different philosophies from different distributors have not been settled yet. So that is an open question, and as you pose it, again, it is the multi-million-dollar question of how you're getting people into the theater, and how many eyes are you going to get on that feature film. So
let's slice that up a little bit and direct it towards drawing the attention of the moviegoer to either one of those platforms, butt in the seat or virtual. And I'll use the example of, you're going to have panel discussions at the festival. The 44th festival is going to have a lot of the traditional formats. So let's take a panel discussion. Are you going to flip it over and you distribute? Stream the panel discussion? Stream, you become a technology digital stage animal as well, and flip it over and bring it out so that you can get people to get their attention? Oh man, that Denver Film Organization, they do some really trick things. I need to go see their stuff. Is that part of your discussion now as you plan the future?
Definitely. So those Q&As, whether it's an introduction by an actor or a director or a producer, that could be attached to the beginning of a film to provide a platform for viewing, kind of information previewing, or a retrospective or a debrief in terms of a Q&A after screening the film and watching the film. We will attach those, and did a lot of this last year in our virtual film festival. We'll attach those Q&As to the film. And so after you watch the film, you get a bit more insight into the making of the film, or the perspectives of the filmmakers when production was underway. The beauty of being in person is, of course, the dynamic nature of seeing talent in person. And that can't be replaced. The other aspect is seeing beautiful cinematography on a big screen.
Oh my gosh,
That's
yes.
also something that cannot be replaced. And there are some scenes I watched The Martian last night as part of this sci-fi series, and seeing it on a big screen and the landscapes that were provided and the expanse of space and things of that nature, you just lose a lot more if you're taking that to a smaller screen. So I would say that the ability to see folks in person, the ability to see cinematography on a big screen, that's difficult to replace. And then the third factor, I would say, in the trifecta of why independent film houses are going to continue to be relevant is the highly curated experience. We're going to provide independent film that you're not going to be able to see other places, and are shocked with the high quality and high value of that screening experience. And so our programming team has amazing abilities with regard to finding these films and bringing them to Denver, for our regional film festival, for our community to share.
Well, we are the Rocky Mountain Hollywood. We need to accentuate that a bit more, but because we've had some downtime, but we are truly, in my opinion, the Rocky Mountain Hollywood. And you're hearing about it right here at KUHS Denver, streaming to you live, talking to James Mejia, the CEO of Denver Film. The 44th Film Festival is about ready to show up at the end of the month into November. We'll ask James for some dates and some contact information in just a minute, but let me share with you some relevant touch points, if you will, some social awareness, if you will. There's some great things happening in the month of October. Remember that in November, it's going to be Movember. So for you out there that like to grow a beard or a mustache, do it in support of the Movember initiative, where they draw attention to those illnesses and issues that really affect men most often, testicular cancer, and the other one, I forgot, prostate cancer, prostate and testicular cancer, and then suicide prevention. Take a look at that. If you can, grow it and join us in Movember. I'm going to refrain. Last year was so humiliating when I tried to grow a beard. It was just unbelievable. So I wanted to make sure we talk about that a little bit and let everybody know what we're going on with our future in the next few weeks. So James, coming back to the technology and the power of movies, I mean, that's undeniable. We see a lot of movie scripts and stories that, both in the indie world, the independent producers, that entrepreneurial spirit, there seems to be this plethora not only of women directors and producers that are popping up. They've always been there. They're just now getting the stage for it. But the issues seem to be even more poignant. They're not generalized. They're not metaphorical. I mean, they're really targeting in on very specific and sensitive things. With the film festival, what are some of those issues that you guys are wanting to really highlight on and really dig at?
I started watching a film called Missing in Brooks County. And it's about the border region. It's about a group of individuals that provide water for immigrants crossing from the Mexican border, from the Mexican side of the border into the United States. And in the first, I'm going to say 10 minutes, it was so impactful that I have to come back to it. I stopped watching, and I have to come back to that film when I'm in the appropriate space to be able to absorb it, And so we're tackling the issue of immigration. That's just one example. Tackling the issue of immigration and border crossing, et cetera, in this time of very low unemployment and the need to have more people in the workforce in the United States. All those issues are overlapping with the backdrop of this film, Missing in Brooks County, and but it underscores the power of film and the transformative nature of the medium. I wasn't prepared to watch it. I wasn't prepared to face that issue at that time, and I will, and I'll come back to it. But a pretty sensitive topic, to your point. Here is someone who took the issue of immigration and really has peeled back the facade of all the political issues and really got to the human issue of immigration. That's the kind of thing that we're looking for, not the surface, public policy, political soundbite. But what is the human impact and what is the human story here? And what we're finding is stories are everywhere and everyone has a story. And it is our obligation, I would say our responsibility as a nonprofit, independent movie and film organization to find the best of those stories and to be a catalyst for the conversations that our community needs to have. So immigration is one. We've got another wonderful film with regard to the opioid epidemic, which again, a very difficult conversation, very high incidence rate here in Colorado, but a conversation the community needs to have. We have another film with regard to women of color running for political office and their stories. So all these stories, all these feature films, all these documentaries, all the narratives, they provide a non-threatening background for a diverse audience to come experience that together and then have the conversation that our community needs to have.
James, I'm really proud of the time I've spent with you over the years, but more importantly, now with the emergence back into the theater, I'm even more proud of the comprehensive nature with which you're cutting across the social landscape. I mean, there's Cinema Q, Latinx, the Colorado Dragon Boat Film Festival. There's Irish, there's French. I mean, you guys have really done a great job, and maybe it's because of motivating coming out of COVID. We're just so desperate to run to the light, and get it out there. But I hope it sustains itself going forward, because I'm really pleased with what's happening. It's like you're presenting desperation with integrity. These issues can be very emotional, as you pointed out, but it has integrity. It's not superficial. It's not stating the obvious. You're offering things that really, really dig a little bit deeper with things. So give me a sense of where your staff is at with this emotionally. They got to be just jazzed.
Yeah, well, the last 18 months have been so difficult with, we went through many of the things other organizations did, including furloughs and pay decreases. And so we had a team that was producing high-level programming that you wouldn't know that there were fewer people there, or you wouldn't know that they were doing much more with much less. And so to emerge with a program that literally has something for everyone, and we hope is a true reflection of the society in which we live, and a true reflection of the issues that we need to discuss as a community. Our staff is very much coming together around putting on this program, and it is wonderful to see. It's cathartic in many ways to have been through such a difficult COVID period, and now we're presenting. I think our programming team has given a gift to the community in terms of how they have curated and what they have selected to put on the big screen. And so I'm very proud of the team for coming together, for working hard, for representing so many different perspectives domestically and internationally, where hopefully we are saying the Scene Film Center is the independent film home where you can feel comfortable, where you are not only invited in, but you are celebrated for being here. So we hope that it's a reflection of that.
Let me dig a little deeper, because food is a thing for me, and I know that we feed ourselves in lots of different ways. But one of the things that I know from experience with your staff, that it's one thing to see a movie, but a whole other thing to see a movie and they get fed based on what you saw at the movie. And the culinary cinema part is what I'm getting to. And I've had such great experience with such wonderful cuisine and the chefs preparing it. whether it's pre-film or post-film or maybe just a special event a few days after the film. What's the excitement for you about the culinary cinema piece this year?
Well, it's all about the ramen this year. wait till you have Jeff Osaka's ramen after seeing a film that whets your appetite. This film is a story about a small ramen stall that really brings community together, and you learn why this community has rallied around this small stall with very high level and very high quality ramen, and then after you watch all that community and film about good food, you actually get to eat good food. And so culinary film will be a highlight for sure, and this year it'll be at one of our new partners, AMC 9, the new AMC 9 on 9th in Colorado. So a new partner in screening. They have excellent space. They've done a wonderful job in their construction, and one of our new screening partners.
Well, the master that is captured in the film is quite a character, as you might imagine, with a foundational base of ramen. You're like, what do you do with ramen? You know, and he does some amazing things with ramen, which befits and hooks in really nicely to his character. So it's known as Come Back Anytime. So for those who are listening and now starting to salivate, whether you like ramen or not, this is an event to watch, and it's also emblematic of what the Sea Film Center and Denver Film does in giving you a reason to go show up at the Denver Film Festival this year, number 44, and enjoy the power of film. And I'll challenge you not to be salivating coming out of the theater, running towards the ramen stand at the AMC 9 after it's all said and done. That's just one example, James. What else is coming up that you want to highlight for the agenda for the upcoming festival?
Well, to give folks an idea of the high watermark that we've hit this year, of our 5 red carpet presentations, 4 will have Oscar nominations attached to them, including 3 or 4, or perhaps all, those 4 with Best Actor nominations. I think we'll see at least 1 or 2 Best Picture nominations in there, and the 5th of those 5 red carpet presentations is a Colorado-centric story, mountaineering story, about rebuilding a family. It's a National Geographic film called Torn, and produced by or directed by Max Lowe, and the entire family will be in attendance.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I will tell you that it is one not to be missed. I would say none of the 5 are to be missed, but that is a Colorado-centric film not to be missed, and we are very excited to receive the family and have the conversation about Torn.
So James, as we get closer to your departing us for today, tell me a little bit about what the future holds. I know it's hard to think past this great event coming up. You're embroiled in that thought process, but this will also be a way to leverage into the future. They'll springboard from here into the future. What should we expect from Denver Film and the festival in the years to come?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, because we have, while we are planning this year's film festival, we're also looking down the line as to how we should refine and redefine what we do. And part of that is an expansion of some of the categories that you talked about. We announced this year that we'll be having the William LeBon Award for Excellence in LGBTQ+ programming. So we're very excited to be adding an expansion of Cinema Q to our repertoire. We also have Amazon and Amazon Studios as a new primary sponsor for Cine Latinx. And so expect to see an expansion of Cine Latinx programming. As part of that, and underneath that umbrella, we have Clifton Collins Jr. coming in not only for a screening of Jockey, for which I believe he'll be nominated for an Oscar, but also a special evening with Clifton Collins Jr., whose grandfather, Pedro Gonzalez, acted alongside John Wayne in a bunch of those westerns.
Yeah.
So lineage of excellent filmmaking, and it'll be a chance to bring in top-level Latino talent from Hollywood, bring the Latino community together, and talk about what that experience is like, his experience as an actor in Hollywood. So we want to bring more programming like that to the fore. We'll be in our next year of Women Plus Film. It's one of the fastest growing programs as part of Denver Film. The Premier Circle is a higher level organization that has special programming year round, and that's growing by leaps and bounds. And then you mentioned Colorado Dragon Boat, and along with the Colorado Dragon Boat Committee that puts on the races in Sloan's Lake, the film festival aspect of their organization, we've had record attendance for that the last couple of years. So we're looking for another year to push attendance and push that partnership and collaboration. So look at broader programming, new community partners. Denver Film will be out in the community much more, and we'll be providing much more education to help create the next generation of filmmakers and the next generation of those that appreciate film. So we look forward to all those things.
That's a great segue to my next question, because collaboration and partnershiping in a kind of a metaphorical sort of way has been a part of that art house, survival, if you will. And there are many historical art houses all over the country, the least of which is not the C Film Center. So as you look forward in all the different things you've mentioned, is that art house to house kind of thought process still going to happen, and where do the other festivals fit into that? Because I know in the past you've done stuff with Sundance and you've thought about others. Are those collaborations going to continue, and to what level do you think they'll manifest themselves?
Yeah, our collaborations are gaining steam and expanding. The one that we started this year and grew the fastest is our relationship with the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival. To the extent that we did some programming with them for Film on the Rocks in the summer, and our closing night screening of King Richard, which is the Serena and Venus Williams story.
Yeah.
And their father, Richard Williams, who laid out this plan. He's portrayed by Will Smith, who is turning in an Oscar-worthy performance, and we may all be surprised if he doesn't win that Oscar. That is being presented in collaboration with Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival. So I'm very proud of that collaboration and that relationship. Frankly, that relationship helped us acquire the film, and that relationship is not one that we're just dropping in from time to time. That's going to be a year-round programming relationship where we help them build their brand while we're building our own. And in true fashion, we want to make a win-win. We don't want to absorb others' efforts into our own. We want to grow their efforts and make them even bigger and better than what they're currently doing. And frankly, as a nonprofit independent film house, that's our obligation. That's what we should be doing, and we should be reaching all aspects of the community and growing the community in that way.
Before I ask you my next question, let's make sure we give props to those principals of the Martha's Vineyard group. They are Coloradans. Well, they're transplanted from other parts of the country, and they live in Colorado, but they have their wonderful festival out there on Martha's Vineyard every year, and they are huge integral advocates for the black and brown communities, both genders, men and women. As you know, with this connection with King Richard, it's a good relationship, and it's one that we deserve to have. So kudos to you. So
Stephanie and Floyd Lance are the founders of Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival, and as you mentioned, they're new to Denver, and we're lucky to have them here, and it really helps boost the profile of film in Colorado, and we're going to have a relationship bigger and better every day with them.
So let me shift gears to another relationship that Denver Film has had for a number of years, and they are featured to a certain capacity in this year's festival. That's Series Fest. Where do you land on? I think I know what you're going to answer, but is it film then series or series then film?
Well, for us it's film, and we happen upon the occasional series, and when we do, we want to bring Series Fest in to collaborate with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whenever we have something regarding a series, they're a close partner with us. We hope that we are always their home for showing series. That the C Film Center is always their home. So we absolutely want to be close with them well into the future, and it brings up the point that for many people, especially the younger generations, there is a blurring of lines with regard to where films start, series start, regular television shows, shorts, etc. If it's entertainment, it's entertainment. If you can see it on a phone or a tablet or a computer, that's what kids are watching. And they draw no distinction. This next generation draws no distinction, and frankly, the industry is going to have to figure out where those lines are. And the younger market may dictate that there are no lines. And so I think the key for us at Denver Film is collaborate and build partnerships with those that are excellent at doing different aspects. In this case, Series Fest, top notch in delivering series to our market.
Somewhat of a connection too, but it will sound like a different question. And here's my two lead-ins to the real meaty question. What is your favorite movie genre, and what is your favorite movie?
I'll start with the second one. Princess Bride has always been at the top of the list.
That's a good one.
I'm a sap for happy endings.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate struggle and what that has done in my own life and what that has produced and what that's brought. I appreciate that in my children's life. I'm a sucker for a happy ending, and so I always go to Princess Bride. One of the highlights of my summer was showing Princess Bride on the big screen at Film on the Rocks at Red Rock. So, and I introduced the film with my 3 daughters.
Oh my gosh, so, that's awesome.
So a highlight of the year, certainly. In terms of genre, I've got to tell you that anything that Pedro Almodovar puts out.
Oh my gosh, picked a good one.
Director.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch. Having brought the kind of acting to the world that he's brought, the kind of storytelling and screenwriting that he's brought to the big stage. If you can put Pedro Almodovar in his own category, that's my category. So, and by the way, we have his new film. In Spanish, it's Madres Paralelas. In English, it's Parallel Mothers. And that actually, I asked about some of the fastest selling films yesterday at our box office, and that was one of them.
Oh, goodness, that's great.
So it hasn't been marketed that much, but people know to look for Almodovar films, and that one is selling quite briskly.
Well, I'm really proud of you and your effort to get the Hispanic movie education levels risen. There are a lot of people that will say, oh yeah, we know about this or we know about that in that particular ethnic group and that language base, but the steps you've taken, just in the mentioning of the producer-director you just mentioned, is something that is notable, that hasn't been said, hasn't been drawn attention to, and then to have the list of films that you have. I mean, the Pure Grit film, a Native American-based film. I mean, just you're doing such a great job with that. So my last question before you leave us is, what's the takeaway when you're interviewing people coming out of the theater that you know they've seen a series of days during the festival? What do you want to hear them say as their takeaway?
I want to hear that it's a special experience. that coming to the C Film Center is unlike going to any other theater, because they can count on a highly curated film. They can count on a community of those that appreciate film and understand film, and that we provide a comfortable, inviting atmosphere for everyone to come in. And so I hope to hear that it's a special experience and a transformative experience. Either entertained, educated, uplifted, in some aspect. I hope that we are impacting life in a positive way.
Well, you've got the great timing for it, because people's sensitivities are probably the highest they've been in a long, long time. And we can argue and debate about where that came from, whether it's COVID or just the boredom of being home for so many hours on end, or maybe it's just other things. Maybe it was just idle curiosity that was driven by it. There's a combination of things. I know you're going to see me at the festival. I'll be hanging around from a press perspective as much as I can. We need a coffee, my friend. We need to hang out.
Absolutely, and I look forward to seeing you at the movies.
Yes, there you go. What a great phrase to end on. James Mejia, CEO of the Denver Film and the 44th Denver Film Festival. Coming to you, James, before you leave, tell us what the dates are and the website for Denver Film.
November 3rd through the 14th. Tickets to the general public are on sale today. They started an hour and 40 minutes ago. Our website is denverfilm.org.
Once again, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me. I'm always blessed by your presence and your knowledge and guidance. So thank you so much for your help.
Thanks so much for having me, Lowell. Great to see you. Can't wait to see you at the film festival.
Be well, my friend. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, I'm going to leave you with a very inanimate object on the screen for those of you who are watching us today. But in the last few minutes we have, I'm going to remind you our theme today was Power of Movie. And we had the CEO of Denver Film on the show, James Mejia. And James has a very interesting background before he came into the position as CEO at Denver Film. He was a socially active, a socially aware individual in the Denver area, and was running for public office, and has either run campaigns or had his own campaigns. So he's really, really astute at understanding the needs of community, and not just of his own cultural community, but communities in general and the connections. One of the things that drew my attention to James was his ability to differentiate for people, understand who they are in those differences, and connect them, so that we could, in fact, as communities of varying degrees of interests and ethnicity and opinions, get to another place. I think it's such a great connection for him to be involved with movies, because he feeds a passion like what I have about just the thrill of being there with a movie and watching it and getting involved with it. And as he said in his comments to us, I watched this movie, Missing in Brooks County, and I got to go watch it again because it was so powerful. I didn't catch everything. I didn't understand everything. To me, that's one of the tests of the power of movies, the power of cinema. For me, I didn't share my answers while James was with us when I asked about your favorite genre of movies. For me, it's Westerns. My favorite genre is Westerns and sci-fi. And the movies I hook into there with those two genres are Old Yeller. Now, for some of you, you may be too young to even know about that movie. But if you like dogs, and you like Westerns, and you like a really good family-based story that has difficulty and trauma and happiness and smiles, I challenge you not to go through a gambit of emotions when you watch Old Yeller and connect with that story. In the sci-fi genre, for me, it's Star Wars #1. For me, that just opened up what I already was interested in since I was a boy, but I'm old, so sci-fi was not a production genre that created content in that category. That category has exploded over the last 20 years. So for me, the first Star Wars movie and what Lucas did, and then Spielberg and his attempts with E.T. and others, just grew and blossomed that category. But that was also a technological marvel. And what they did with CG work, computer-generated graphics, it's just been amazing. One of the things I want to kind of hone in on as we finish up today's show is pointing out to everybody that the technology that movies are creating and asking for is also creating jobs for people. There's a digital studio. James alluded to it when he talked about how the scenery behind sci-fi movies or any type of movies is getting more detailed, more specific in its content, so that you not only see detail, but you see substance and depth in addition to the color and the texture. That is only capable of happening because of the computer-generated staging, the digital framework, and literally framework that is behind the actors. So the stages are like a regular kind of theatrical stage that they put digital floors in, digital walls, digital ceilings, so that an actor can be walking across a stage, and behind it, images are moving with it, and they are so detailed. They look like they're real. They look so dimensional that they look like the Land Rover that's behind a Star Wars figure. That's just amazing to me. And they can do so many interesting things with it in combination with the digital cameras that are also there capturing the human beings that are on that stage. Now, I'm bringing this up because I want you to encourage your kids, maybe even yourself, to really take a look at the movie industry and what it can do to your own personal performance. If you like movies now, then take a real deep dive into what movies are doing to create their images and to tell their stories. It's a great opportunity. And even though I may have sounded like I was being sarcastic or making fun of the iPhone 13 that's out, any digital handheld device becomes a self-made theater and movie production studio. It's only up to you and what you bring with it as far as setting and costuming and people. You really have a lot more control at a high level of quality than one could ever imagine. I just look back at my childhood, and I had a Kodak box camera with a pivoting cubed flash as my first camera. It's just really overwhelming how quickly and how sophisticated the technology has become in such a short amount of time. Now, I bring these things up to you because of this. Our show is all about performance and producing results that you alone imagine you can do. And quite honestly, when it's a topic about movies and creativity, your mind is your only resource that limits you from going where you want to go. If you imagine it in today's world, you could probably do it or do some version of it. And I include flying in there. Invisibility, teletransportation, we're still looking at that. But your imagination is a powerful tool, especially when it's fueling the power and effectiveness of a movie. So I'm asking you to think about expanding your creativity so that you can be a performer at a level that equals or exceeds your own possibilities and your own imagination. And with the Denver Film Festival coming up, go check that out on November 3rd. Go buy a ticket at denverfilm.org and see what you can imagine will actually be on the screen. Have feelings based on the quality of the storytelling being done by the actors on the screen that were driven and guided by the producers and directors behind the camera. It's a wonderful, wonderful setting to imagine. So as we get closer to the end, let me just talk a little bit about some other performances this weekend. There are some major things going on this weekend in football, as there is in every weekend for the next few weeks regarding NCAA and professional football. Take some time to check your dial and see what's out there for you to view. But I also want to point out that in our own state, well, actually all states across the country, high school athletes are trying to perform at their very best. Many of them have been way more resilient than I would ever imagine myself being, trying to train with a mask on. and work out and practice. Pick any sport you want, indoor sport, an outdoor sport, wearing a mask and sweating and trying to execute, trying to be aware of your eye, what you see and what you smell and what you hear, being distracted by a mask over your ears, a mask covering your nose, being reminded by a manager or coach, pull the mask up over your nose. I mean, any number of things could have and are happening at the high school level. Check out your high school teams. If you have high schoolers in your home that are athletes, don't forget to say how much you appreciate the effort they've made to participate, to do something they really love to do. And yet there's this obstacle that they didn't have any choice in. It was the right choice. In my personal opinion, it's the right choice to not only protect yourself, but protect others. And do what is the best thing for you and your teammates. Because remember, the other teams and their players have the mask on too. It's an equal distribution of the use of a mask. So give your gratitude to those athletes and let them know how much you understand how they have taken the challenge and stepped up to deliver. And in some cases, you're watching some execution of skills that are just amazing. In the football world, players don't have to wear masks in their helmet. They come back to the sideline, they take it off, they put a mask back on. But if it's a volleyball game, they're wearing the mask start to finish. All 3 games to win the contest, or attempt to win the contest. There are other sports that are the same way. Then there's other sports that have a little bit of leeway because of the nature of the sport, football being one of them. I'm going to imagine wrestling is one of those as well. You can take your mask off, you wrestle, you go put it back on the sidelines. Basketball, I've seen both, actually. There are some basketball programs, both girls and boys, men and women, that some players are wearing masks on the court. And I'm not going to step into political areas. I'm just going to say continue to revel in the courage and the diligence and resiliency of these athletes and what they're doing to really try to deliver the best that they can. And be, after the first of the year, we have indications that we're going to have NCAA Final Four, which will be wonderful. There are some athletes, regretfully, that because of last year and they were seniors, they're not going to have a chance to know how their team and how they individually would have performed if given the chance during an event like that, and the progression through the playoffs going forward. I think it's worth mentioning from my perspective that professional athletics, regardless of the sport, have been really good examples of how to persevere. The NBA was one of my examples when they were going through their bubble efforts, and yet there were still naysayers, people pointing fingers at them and trying to take shots at the way they were doing things, and maybe they were taking a negative track on disagreeing with them, but the outcomes were way beyond expectation for the NBA. And I may get pushed back, well, maybe, I will, I have, about this comment that I really want to commend the leadership and guidance of those leaders in the NBA with the franchises and the players and what they did. The other sport wasn't as consistent, but two other sports, NFL and the NHL, really set some examples for college and high school programs to follow. They challenged the recipe of what would work. The NBA was a good example for those 2 sports as well. I know there were a number of NFL franchises last season that used many of the strategies that the NBA tried in setting up their preseason camps, in setting up their setup, even though there weren't fans in the stands, or if there were very, very few fans in the stands. I think it's just worthwhile focusing on how well we did, instead of acknowledging these negative Nellies. I just don't understand it. We've gotten so far, and yet the reality of what we could have done better at is over 700,000 deaths. So in the Denver Film Festival, there are movies that you can watch about different opinions about how we handled these things. But at the same time, life is just not one slice of opinion. It's many different slices, which is why I really enjoy watching the films in the Denver Film Festival, or any festival for that matter. And I've been to a few around the country. They are wonderful. The Arts Theater Club, if you will, or theater group, many of which are not-for-profits, is such a great place to go see and experience some wonderful expressions of life along many different levels. It's not just one story that makes up our world. It's the combination of many of these stories and appreciating the differences that those stories bring to us that we should revel in and find more and more examples of smiling, having fun. As I asked James, all the seriousness of the stories that are being told during the Denver Film Festival, and bringing us more awareness of our social responsibilities. Where's the humor? Where's the funny? Bring me a comedy. And we've got so many wonderful comedic performers out there. And there are some movies that tickle our funny bone in the Denver Film Festival. So I'm going to tell you that I did such a great job today. I got through all of my material sooner than I expected. So I'm going to give you a shortened version of today's show by 3 minutes. 3 minutes shorter than we normally do. But as I do that in those last 3 minutes, let me just tell you that I'm grateful to those who support me here at KUHS Denver. I'm always anxious to watch the wonderful guests and presentations that Sylvia makes with her guests, that Charlie makes with his guests, and Melissa, and obviously my great dear friend and colleague Nikki Burnett, and the things that she shares with you about nutrition and being functional and foundational in your nutritional needs right here at KUHS, streaming to you live and with international flavor. And the music that comes with it, my goodness, whether it's a downbeat, a 4-count, or just the 3-step beats, you got it all right here, all the different genres at KUHSdenver.com, streaming to you. Have a great day today, everybody. This is Dr. Whiteman, coach, saying goodbye from 360 Performance every Friday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Have a great day today, everybody. Here are the wonderful sounds of Don't Let No One Get You Down.